As we consider the fruit of the Spirit that is to be cultivated within the heart and the life of every believer, the second one on the list calls for pure joy to pervade our thoughts and our actions. Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Tuesday. As the Apostle Paul enumerates that list of fruit produced by the Spirit in the believer's life in Galatians chapter 5 and verse 22, he says that joy should be cultivated and should be evident within us. Remember that verse. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. I read somewhere that joy was defined as pleasurable feelings or emotion caused by success or good fortune. I disagree with that definition. If you're having good feelings due to outward circumstances, that is actually what we call happiness. Someone else said joy is that unshakable feeling of well-being despite our outward circumstances. Billy Graham actually wrote in his book, Hope for Each Day, that happiness depends on circumstances, but joy depends on our God. We are really describing an inner feeling that we should have because we believe in God. When the Beatitudes say, blessed are the merciful, it's actually describing an inner joy there, a contentment that these people feel, and it's not changed by their circumstances. I find it interesting that the theme of Philippians is joy or rejoicing, and Paul uses this phrase over and over again when he writes to his friends in the church at Philippi. There are a few interesting facts to note about this city and the church that Paul is writing to. First of all, Paul and Silas were beaten with stripes in Philippi, placed in prison, and at midnight they were having a prayer meeting and singing praises to God. They even witnessed the conversion of the jailer while they were there in prison. Paul also writes about the persecution that has been felt by the church since he left that city. He says in Philippians 1:27, be not in any way terrified of your adversaries. He tells the church when they show joy in the midst of adversity, it is a great testimony of their faith in God and the deep-seated contentment that the Spirit gives his followers. Oh, by the way, that book, Philippians, is also called a prison epistle, which means that the Apostle Paul wrote these words while he was being confined at a prison in Rome. Yet he continued to write of joy and rejoicing. He also commands the Philippians to let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who became a servant, even humbled himself to the death of the cross. And the writer of Hebrews 12:2 says, he endured the cross, despising the shame, all for the joy that was set before him, and he's now seated at the right hand of the throne of God. It is the reward at the end of this life that brings us joy despite our circumstances. You see, this world may bring persecution and pain, but the circumstances we face, even though they may seem unbearable here, it doesn't mean we can't still have joy in the recesses of our mind and deep in our heart. Joy should not be an emotion or a feeling, but a deep-seated decision that we choose every day. Just as fruit must be planted and tended to have a great crop, joy is also one of those things that needs our daily care, our nourishment, our faith in God in order for it to flourish. Joy should also be evident on the outside by a contentment, a lack of frustration by the things of this world, because we are trusting in God.